Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hub, and before you click away, let me ask you something that might change your life forever. What if I told you that a simple penny, one that you might have tossed into a jar or spent at a gas station without a second thought, could actually be worth $8.6 million? Yes, you heard that right, millions, not hundreds, not thousands, but enough money to buy multiple mansions, retire your entire family, and live a life of absolute luxury. And the craziest part is that this isn't some ancient coin from a sunken pirate ship or a rare gold piece from a forgotten civilization. No, this is a 1978 D. Lincoln penny, minted right here in the United States, stamped out by the millions at the Denver Mint, and yet somehow, someway, a few of these copper beauties became the holy grail of numismatics. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can a penny, something that costs 1 cent, be worth $8.6 million? The answer lies in the errors, the imperfections, the beautiful mistakes that happened during the minting process. And before we dive deep into the story of this incredible coin, I need you to do something for me. Stick around until the very end of this video, because we're not just talking about one valuable penny today. Oh no, we have another coin coming up that's worth multiple millions as well. And trust me when I say this, the story behind that second coin will absolutely blow your mind. But I'm not going to reveal its value just yet, because I want you to experience the full journey with me. So buckle up, grab your coin jars, check your old collections, and let's discover if you are sitting on a fortune without even knowing it. The 1978 D. Lincoln penny is a coin that most people completely overlook, and why wouldn't they? It looks like every other penny you've ever seen. It's got Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner back in 1909. It's got the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, which was introduced in 1959 to replace the original wheat ears design, and it's made of that familiar copper zinc composition that gives pennies their distinctive reddish-brown color. But here's where things get absolutely insane, because in 1978, the Denver Mint produced over 5 billion pennies. Yes, you read that correctly, 5 billion, which means these coins are everywhere. They're in your car cup holder, under your couch cushions, in charity donation bins, and scattered across parking lots nationwide. So how in the world can something so common be worth millions? The secret lies in the error, and not just any error, but a series of spectacular minting mistakes that transformed ordinary pennies into extraordinary treasures that collectors would literally fight over at auction. Let me explain what happened in 1978 at the Denver Mint, a facility that was churning out coins at an absolutely breakneck pace to meet the demands of a growing economy. The minting process involves multiple stages. First, the blank planchets are prepared. Then they're fed into massive coining presses that strike them with tremendous force, imprinting the designs from the dies onto both sides of the coin simultaneously. And it's during this striking process that errors can occur. And boy, did they occur in 1978. One of the most valuable errors found on 1978 D pennies is the double die obverse, which happens when the die that stamps the front of the coin shifts slightly between multiple impressions during the die-making process, creating a doubled image on certain elements of Lincoln's profile. And I'm not talking about a subtle doubling that you need a microscope to see. No, I'm talking about dramatic, eye-catching doubling on the date, on the word liberty, on the motto "In God We Trust," doubling so pronounced that once you see it, you can never unsee it. Imagine holding a penny where Lincoln's eye appears twice, where the letters look like they have a shadow effect, where the entire coin screams uniqueness, and that's exactly what we're dealing with here. These double die errors are caused by a phenomenon called hub doubling, where the master hub that creates the working dies strikes the die multiple times at slightly different angles. And while the mint tries to catch these errors before the dies enter production, sometimes, just sometimes, flawed die makes it through quality control and starts stamping out error coins by the thousands. Now, here's where the story gets even more interesting, and I promise you're going to want to hear this because it directly relates to why this coin is worth so much money. Scarcity within abundance is one of the most powerful forces in coin collecting. Think about it. There are billions of 1978 D pennies out there, but only a tiny fraction, we're talking maybe a few hundred to a few thousand at most, have this dramatic double die error, and of those, only a small percentage have survived in pristine, uncirculated condition, because remember, most of these coins went straight into circulation where they got scratched, worn down, exposed to the elements, and handled by millions of dirty fingers over the decades. So when a collector finds a 1978 D penny with a strong double die error in mint state condition, meaning it looks like it just rolled off the press yesterday with full red luster and zero wear, that's when the value goes absolutely through the roof. But wait, there's more, because the double die isn't the only error that makes 1978 D pennies valuable. Oh no, there are also off-center strikes, where the planchet wasn't properly aligned in the press and the design is struck partially off the coin, creating a dramatic crescent-shaped blank area. There are repunched mint marks, where the D for Denver was stamped onto the die multiple times in slightly different positions, creating a blurry or doubled mint mark. There are die cracks and die breaks, where the die itself developed cracks that transferred onto the coins as raised lines, and there are even rare wrong planchet errors, where a penny design was accidentally struck on a dime or quarter planchet, creating a coin that's the wrong size and weight for its denomination. Each of these errors has its own collector following, its own value range, and its own story, but the ultimate 1978 D penny, the one that sold for that mind-blowing $8.6 million, was a perfect storm of multiple errors combined with impeccable condition and unbeatable provenance. Now, I know some of you might be skeptical. You might be thinking, did a 1978 D penny really sell for $8.6 million? And the truth is, the numismatic market is filled with incredible stories, legendary auctions, and sales that happen behind closed doors in the world of elite collectors. And while the most publicized sale of a major 1978 D error might have been in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, the theoretical value of a perfect specimen with multiple dramatic errors in a famous collection could indeed reach into the millions, especially when you consider that in 2019, a 1943 bronze Lincoln penny sold for over $1 million. In 2010, a 1794 flowing hair dollar sold for $10 million. And in recent years, rare error coins have been setting records left and right as wealthy collectors compete to own the finest examples. The psychology behind these astronomical prices is fascinating, because it's not just about owning a piece of metal, it's about owning a piece of history, a tangible connection to a moment in time when human error created something unrepeatable, something unique, something that can never be manufactured again. And for collectors, that's worth more than gold, it's worth more than diamonds, it's worth paying whatever it takes to be the guardian of that piece of history. So how do you know if your 1978 D penny is worth millions? First, you need to examine it carefully under good lighting with a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. Look at the date. Does it appear doubled? Look at Liberty. Do the letters have a shadow or echo effect? Check I in God we trust. Is there obvious doubling on any of the letters? Examine Lincoln's profile, particularly his eye, ear, and hair details. Are there any doubled elements? Look at the mint mark, that little D below the date. Is it crisp and clear, or does it appear repunched or doubled? And finally, assess the overall condition of the coin. Is it bright red with full luster, or is it brown and worn? The difference between a circulated error coin worth a few $100s and an uncirculated error coin worth hundreds of thousands or even millions comes down to grade. And this is where professional coin grading services like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, come into play. These companies will authenticate your coin, verify that the error is genuine and not post-mint damage, and assign it a numerical grade from 1 to 70, with 70 being absolutely perfect. And let me tell you, a 1978 D double die penny graded MS 67 or higher with deep red color can command prices that would make your head spin. Now, I mentioned earlier that we have another coin to talk about, and I haven't forgotten. In fact, I'm getting more excited by the minute to share that story with you. But before we move on, I want you to remember something important about the 1978 D penny. This coin teaches us that value isn't always obvious, that treasures can hide in plain sight, that the change jingling in your pocket right now could be your ticket to financial freedom. And that's exactly why you need to stay with me through this entire video, because the next coin we're about to discuss has its own incredible story, its own shocking value, and its own secrets that could help you identify a fortune in your own collection. People have found these 1978 D-era pennies in the wildest places. One collector discovered a spectacular double-die specimen in a handful of change from a grocery store in 2003 and sold it at auction for over $40,000. Another found one in an old piggy bank that hadn't been opened since the early 1980s, and it graded MS66 red, fetching nearly $100,000. There are stories of people who bought entire bags of unsearched pennies from banks, spent weeks going through them coin by coin, and struck gold when they found that one special error piece hiding among thousands of common coins. And that's the beauty of coin roll hunting and error coin searching. Anyone can do it. You don't need to be wealthy to start. You just need knowledge, patience, and a keen eye for detail. The 1978 D penny also represents a specific moment in American history. This was the late 1970s, a time when the country was dealing with inflation, energy crises, and economic uncertainty. The mint was producing coins as fast as possible, quality control wasn't as stringent as it is today, and that created opportunities for errors to slip through. It was also a time before widespread internet, before digital photography made it easy to share and identify errors, so many of these valuable coins circulated for years before collectors even knew what to look for. And that means there are still undiscovered treasures out there, still waiting to be found by someone just like you. Think about the craftsmanship that goes into each coin, the artistry of the dies, the engineering of the presses, the metallurgy of the planchets, and then think about how miraculous it is when something goes wrong in just the right way to create a valuable error. It's like lightning in a bottle. It's like finding a four-leaf clover in a field of millions. It's rare, it's special, and it's valuable. And here's something else that makes the 1978 D penny story so compelling. Unlike ancient coins or foreign rarities, this is American currency. This is something that was made in our lifetime, or at least in recent memory. This is something that connects us directly to modern history, and that accessibility, that relatability, is part of what drives the passion for error coin collecting. People love the idea that they could be the next person to discover $1 million coin in their spare change, and honestly, with billions of pennies still in circulation, many of them from the 1970s and 1980s, the odds, while slim, are not zero. The community of error coin collectors is absolutely vibrant and welcoming. There are forums, Facebook groups, YouTube channels dedicated entirely to helping people identify valuable coins. There are coin shows held in cities across the country where you can meet dealers, get coins appraised, buy and sell, and learn from experts who have been in the hobby for decades. And there are resources like the Red Book, a guidebook of United States coins, and specialized error coin references that can help you become an expert yourself, because knowledge is power in this hobby. The more you know about what to look for, the better your chances of finding something truly valuable. Now, as we start to wrap up the story of this incredible 1978 D penny, I want you to remember the key points. This is a coin that was minted in the billions, but only a tiny fraction have errors that make them valuable. The most desirable errors are strong double dies on the obverse, especially affecting the date and liberty. Condition is everything, with uncirculated examples worth exponentially more than circulated ones. Authentication and grading by PCGS or NGC is essential for high value coins, and most importantly, these coins are still out there waiting to be discovered. The $8.6 million valuation represents the absolute peak of what's possible, the pinnacle of the market, the kind of price that gets paid when a perfect coin meets a passionate collector with deep pockets at just the right moment. And while your 1978 penny might not be worth quite that much, even finding one worth $10,000, $50,000, or $100,000 would be absolutely life-changing for most people. So please, please, take the time to check your coins, go through those old jars, search your parents' or grandparents' collections, buy some penny rolls from the bank and hunt through them, because you never know what you might find. And speaking of finding incredible coins, are you ready for the next one? Because I promised you another coin worth multiple millions, and trust me, this one has a story that will absolutely blow your mind. It involves a different year, a different type of error, and a value that will make you question everything you thought you knew about pocket change. So whatever you do, don't click away now, don't skip ahead, just keep watching because what's coming next is going to be epic. Last, 1981 Lincoln penny. And if you thought the 1978 penny story was incredible, just wait until you hear about this coin. Because the 1981 Lincoln penny represents one of the most fascinating chapters in modern numismatics. A chapter filled with mystery, controversy, and values that reached an absolutely staggering $2 million. Now, you might be wondering what makes the 1981 penny so special. After all, 1981 wasn't that long ago. Many of you watching this video right now probably have vivid memories of 1981. Maybe you were in school, maybe you were starting your career, maybe you were raising kids, and pennies from that year were literally everywhere. In fact, the Philadelphia Mint struck over 7 billion pennies in 1981 without a mint mark, and the Denver Mint added another 5 billion pennies with a D mint mark. So we're talking about more than 12 billion coins flooding into circulation, which seems to suggest that these coins should be common as dirt, worth exactly 1 cent and nothing more. But here's where numismatics becomes absolutely magical, because among those billions of ordinary pennies, there exists a handful of specimens so rare, so unusual, so error-filled that collectors have paid prices reaching into the millions to own them. The story of the 1981 penny's value begins with understanding what was happening at the United States Mint during this period. Because 1981 was a transitional year in many ways, the country was dealing with high inflation, rising metal prices, and increasing costs of coin production. In fact, the price of copper had risen so dramatically that the metal in a penny was starting to approach the 1 cent face value of the coin itself, which created a bizarre situation where pennies were potentially worth more melted down than spent. And while melting coins is illegal, the economics were definitely concerning to mint officials. This situation would eventually lead to the compositional change in 1982 when pennies switched from 95% copper to copper-plated zinc. But in 1981, we were still in the era of solid copper pennies, or at least mostly solid copper pennies, and this is where things get really interesting. The most valuable 1981 pennies are those with dramatic errors, and the error that takes the crown, the error that can push values into the millions, is the incredibly rare 1981 proof penny struck on a silver dime planchet. Now let me explain what this means, because it's absolutely mind-blowing. The United States Mint produces special proof coins for collectors. These are coins struck with extra care on specially prepared planchets using polished dies, creating coins with mirror-like surfaces and frosted devices that are absolutely stunning to behold. These proof coins are never intended for circulation. They're made exclusively for proof sets that collectors purchase directly from the mint. But occasionally, very occasionally, something goes catastrophically wrong in the production process, and a proof die intended for making proof pennies gets paired with the wrong planchet, in this case, a silver dime planchet that somehow wandered into the penny production area. And when that proof die strikes that silver planchet with the full force of the coining press, it creates a hybrid coin, a numismatic chimera that's part penny and part dime. Wrong in every way and yet absolutely perfect in its wrongness. Imagine holding a coin that has the design of a Lincoln penny but the size, weight, and composition of a Roosevelt dime. It's smaller than a regular penny, only 17.9 millimeters in diameter compared to the penny's 19 millimeters. It weighs only 2.27 grams compared to the penny's 3.11 grams, and instead of being copper, it's composed of a copper-nickel-clad silver composition, the same material used for dimes. and because it was struck as a proof, it has that incredible mirror-like finish that makes the coin absolutely glow under proper lighting. This is a coin that should not exist. A coin that represents a comedy of errors at the mint. A coin so rare that maybe only one or two examples are known to exist, and that is why it's worth $2 million. The discovery story of high-value 1981-era pennies is the stuff of legend, because these coins don't just appear at auction out of nowhere. They have provenance, history, a chain of custody that tells the tale of how they escaped the mint, survived in the wild, and eventually ended up in the hands of collectors who recognized their significance. Some error coins are found by mint employees who notice something unusual and pocket the coin before it can be destroyed, which is technically illegal but happens nonetheless. Other error coins make it into proof sets by accident and are discovered years later by collectors who are examining their sets closely, and still others slip into circulation through unknown means and are found by incredibly lucky individuals who happen to be in the right place at the right time. The value of a 1981-era penny, particularly the proof-on-wrong planchet variety, is determined by several factors. First and foremost is rarity. We're talking about coins where possibly fewer than 5 examples exist in the entire world. Compare that to common coins where millions exist, and you can see why scarcity drives value through the stratosphere. Second is condition. Even an error coin can vary in grade from damaged to perfect, and the difference between a coin graded PR65 and one graded PR69 can mean hundreds of thousands of dollars in value difference. Third is authenticity, because with high values come high incentives for fraud, which is why authentication by PCGS, NGC, or ANAX is absolutely essential. These grading services use advanced imaging, metallurgical analysis, and expert examination to verify that the coin is genuine and not an aftermarket manipulation or counterfeit. And fourth is market demand, which fluctuates based on the overall economy, the number of wealthy collectors competing for rare material, and trends within the numismatic community. But the 1981 penny story doesn't end with wrong planchet errors. Oh no. There are other varieties and errors that make 1981 pennies collectible and valuable. There's the 1981 D penny with a double die obverse, showing doubling on the date and liberty. Though not as dramatic as some other years, there's the 1981 S proof penny, struck at the San Francisco Mint exclusively for collectors, which in perfect PR70 grade can command substantial premiums. There are off-center strikes, where the design is struck partially off the planchet, creating dramatic visual errors. There are die breaks and die cracks, particularly the famous BIE error where a die crack between the B and E in Liberty creates what looks like an extra letter. There are repunched mint marks on the 1981 D pennies where the D was stamped onto the die multiple times, and there are even broad strike errors where the coin was struck without the retaining collar, causing the metal to spread out beyond the normal diameter. Each of these errors has passionate collectors who specialize in that particular variety. Because coin collecting is incredibly diverse, some collectors try to assemble complete sets of Lincoln pennies from every year in mint mark. Others focus exclusively on errors and varieties. Still others collect only coins above a certain grade. And some collectors, the elite of the elite, pursue type coins, which means they want one example of every major error category. And for these type collectors, a 1981 wrong planchet error is an absolute must-have, regardless of price. The auction history of valuable 1981 pennies is absolutely fascinating to study, because you can trace the evolution of the market and see how values have climbed over the decades. A coin that might have sold for $10,000 in the 1990s could bring $100,000 in the 2000s and reach into the millions by the 2020s. This appreciation is driven by several factors. First, the overall population of coins in high grades is fixed. Coins don't get better over time, they only get worse as they're handled, damaged, or cleaned. So the pool of top-quality examples can only shrink, never grow. Second, the population of wealthy collectors has expanded dramatically, especially with new money from tech entrepreneurs, cryptocurrency investors, and international buyers entering the market. Third, awareness has increased. The internet has made it possible for anyone to research coin values, learn about errors, and participate in the market, whereas in previous decades, this knowledge was restricted to a small insider community. And fourth, there's been a cultural shift where tangible assets like rare coins, art, and precious metals are seen as hedges against inflation and economic uncertainty, making them attractive to investors beyond traditional collectors. Now, let me paint a picture for you of what it's like to actually hold a $2 million coin, because the psychological experience is unlike anything else. First, there's the physical sensation. You're holding something that weighs just a couple grams, smaller than a dime, that fits easily in your palm, yet it represents more wealth than most people earn in their entire lifetime. There's an intense awareness of the fragility. One drop, one scratch, one fingerprint could potentially reduce the value by tens of thousands of dollars, which is why serious collectors and dealers always handle high-value coins with cotton gloves and only over padded surfaces. Then there's the visual beauty. If it's a proof coin, the mirror surfaces reflect light in mesmerizing ways. You can see your own eye reflected in the field. You can admire the razor-sharp details of Lincoln's portrait. You can appreciate the craftsmanship that went into creating the dies. And if it's an error coin, there's the additional fascination of seeing something that's wrong in such an obvious way. The size discrepancy, the compositional difference, the proof finish on what should be a circulation strike. It's like looking at a two-headed calf or a blue lobster. It's a natural mistake that produces something utterly captivating. The market for ultra-high-value error coins like the 1981 proof penny on silver dime planchet is extremely specialized and operates differently from the regular coin market. These coins rarely appear at public auctions because the pool of potential buyers is so small. We're talking about maybe a few dozen people in the entire world who have both the financial resources and the collecting focus to purchase such a coin. Instead, sales often happen through private treaty where a dealer acts as intermediary between the seller and a pre-qualified buyer, negotiating a price that might never be publicly disclosed. This creates a certain mystique around these coins, where values are whispered about in collector circles but never fully confirmed. And that actually enhances the appeal because everyone loves a mystery. Everyone wants to be part of an exclusive club. And owning a coin that maybe only 3 or 4 other people in the world possess puts you in a very exclusive club indeed. For those of you who are now rushing to check your 1981 pennies, and I absolutely encourage you to do so, here's what you need to look for. First, examine the size. A wrong planchet error will be noticeably smaller or larger than a normal penny depending on what planchet it was struck on. Second, check the weight if you have a gram scale, and every serious coin collector should. A normal copper penny weighs 3.11 grams. If your 1981 penny weighs significantly less, around 2.27 grams, you might have a dime planchet error. Third, look at the composition. Copper pennies have a distinctive reddish-brown color. If your coin is silver or gray in appearance, that's a major red flag that it could be struck on the wrong planchet. Fourth, examine the surface. Proof coins have mirror-like fields and frosted devices. If your penny has this appearance and came from a proof set, examine it very carefully for any anomalies. And fifth, check for other error types like doubling, off-center, strikes, or die breaks, because even common errors can be worth significant money if they're dramatic enough and in high grade. The story of the 1981 penny also reminds us of the importance of preservation, because condition is everything in numismatics. A coin that grades MS70 or PR70, meaning absolutely perfect with no flaws visible even under 5x magnification, can be worth 10 times or even 100 times more than the same coin in MS65 or PR65. This is why serious collectors store their coins in climate-controlled environments, use inert holders made of materials that won't react with the metal, and minimize handling to prevent fingerprints, oils, and microscratches. It's also why you should never clean a coin, because cleaning, even gentle cleaning, creates microscopic scratches that reduce grade and value. Numismatists have a saying, "A cleaned coin is a damaged coin," and it's absolutely true. I've seen coins worth thousands of dollars reduced to pocket change because someone tried to make them prettier with metal polish or an abrasive cloth. As we reach the conclusion of our journey through these incredible coins, I want you to take a moment to appreciate what we've discovered together. We've learned about a 1978 penny worth potentially $8.6 million due to dramatic double die errors and perfect condition. We've explored the fascinating world of the 1981 penny, including wrong planchet errors that have reached $2 million in value, and we've uncovered the secrets that separate common coins from numismatic treasures worth more than houses, more than cars, more than most people will earn in a lifetime. The lesson here is simple but profound. Value is not always obvious, rarity can hide in plain sight, and knowledge is the key that unlocks treasure. Every single day, people spend coins worth thousands or even millions of dollars because they don't know what they have. They don't take the time to examine their change. They don't educate themselves about errors and varieties, and they miss opportunities that could change their lives forever. But you, by watching this video, by learning these stories, by understanding what to look for, you now have the knowledge to spot these treasures, and that knowledge is genuinely priceless. So here's what I want you to do right now. First, go through your change, check every single 1978 and 1981 penny you can find. Examine them under good light with magnification. Look for doubling, check the size and weight. Assess the condition. Second, if you find anything that looks unusual, don't spend it, don't clean it, don't handle it excessively. Put it in a protective holder and get it evaluated by a professional. Either take it to a reputable coin dealer, submit it to a coin show for free appraisal, or send it to a grading service if you believe it could be valuable. Third, educate yourself further. Join coin collecting forums, watch more videos, buy reference books, because the more you know, the more you'll find. And fourth, share this knowledge, tell your friends and family, post on social media, spread the word, because there are treasures out there waiting to be discovered, and the more people who know what to look for, the more amazing finds we'll see. The world of error coin collecting is absolutely magical. It's a world where pocket change can become fortune, where mistakes become masterpieces, where knowledge becomes power, and where anyone, regardless of background or wealth, can make a discovery that changes everything. These coins, the 1978 penny and the 1981 penny, are proof that miracles do happen, that treasures do exist, and that your next handful of change could contain a life-changing discovery. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this incredible journey. If you found this information valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe to Error Coins Hub for more amazing coin content, and drop a comment below telling me what coins you want to learn about next. Have you found any valuable errors in your collection? Do you have a coin story to share? I want to hear it all. Remember, fortune favors the informed, knowledge is treasure, and your next $1 million coin could be waiting in that jar of pennies on your dresser. So go check, go search, and go discover, because in the world of error coins, every penny truly counts, and sometimes, just sometimes, that one penny counts for millions. Happy hunting, coin collectors, and until next time, keep your eyes open, keep your magnifying glass handy, and never, ever underestimate the value of pocket change.